Hello again, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to have a short discussion with you and maybe some demonstrations of how we can vibe code apps, and then even take it several steps further and build out what is essentially becoming a shopping super app in the form of ShopBirdy. So let's first start with a quick example of how we can actually vibe code an app. I thought it'd be fun to maybe share a little bit of how I do it. So let's jump into that now. We'll start with Bolt. Bolt is a I would say, very user-friendly, very powerful online software development tool to help you basically build almost any kind of app using just prompts, using natural language. So you don't even need to know how to code to build an app. And these apps are getting pretty sophisticated as the models themselves advance. The online AI code assistant tools like Bolt and others are integrating these new model advances and are unlocking lots of great capabilities and functionality. So let's say, for example, I want to build a to-do app, right? I mean, this is a very common, like, when you're learning how to code, one of the first projects that you'll probably undertake is to build a simple to-do app, because it teaches you several different important fundamentals of building, let's say, web-based software. So let's start by prompting Bolt here to say, I want to build a to-do app for household chores and the like. I want this built in React. The app should be mobile responsive. Again, mobile responsive meaning that it can like the website can load perfectly on your mobile phone, on your smartphone, or on your desktop. So the responsive nature of that means that if you scale it down or scale it up, all the elements should proportionally resize themselves and stack and everything else like that. So the app should be mobile responsive. It should allow the user to let's say mark certain items as let's use the typical like planned not started, ongoing, completed, or we can say like completed. There may be another step, which is like to verify that it's completed, so claim completed versus verified completed, but we'll just keep it simple. So planned, ongoing, and completed. The items we should consider are laundry, that's washing clothes and other items, drying, ironing, let's say cleaning the floors, cleaning the surfaces, folding clothes, organizing the household, preparing meals, and what else is there? I mean, that's already a ton of work. Laundry, drying, ironing, cleaning the floors, cleaning the surfaces, folding clothes, organizing the household, preparing meals, let's say making the bed, anything else, we can add it later, etc. This should be built in a way where multiple users can interact with the app. So for example, user A can specify what needs to be done, and user B can work to accomplish those tasks. Let's make it visually user-friendly, professional, and I think I already said mobile responsive, and let's say support both Thai and English language users. So that's just the general prompt. That's the overview of a to-do app. I'll also specify we do not at this stage need to integrate a database, although that would be the logical next step. But we should have a robust client-side application. So this means that it may not save state, meaning that your items that are marked as ongoing, completed, or so forth, if you connected it to a database, you'd be able to actually have that data persist in the status of those items. But in this case, we'll just build the front end for that. So we'll focus on building a great front end experience. So that's just an overall prompt, but you can see I've thought a little bit more deeply in just saying build a to-do app. I'm actually specifying exactly the items or several of the expected items to be included. I'm also telling it what not to do at this time as well, so it can just focus its context and energy on just producing this artifact. And if I wanted to, I could go right into this and begin the process. There's also the option, as we have here, called enhance the prompt, which will take the existing prompt and then reformat it using Bolt's systems, which might be more technical in nature. So it'll take my overall view and then actually rephrase that into requirements, more technical style requirements. So these are going to be things like, it's going to specify that it should have these types of technical details, like the style sheets, the exact library of React to use. Everything should be TypeScript, and so forth. So we'll go ahead and we've got dynamic reasoning on, so that's going to give us the longer chain of thought. Diffs is going to be mostly focused on making specific edits. Dynamic reasoning is going to have more of a broader, bigger context window, and it'll have more of a planning nature to it. So we'll start with this. We'll kick that off. And in the background, what Bolt is doing, this is bolt.new, it's reasoning about what the prompt is. It's then looking up its system tools, and then it's launching its online developer environment. So this is essentially a virtual machine, whereby normally you might have to install a bunch of software to actually run this kind of application on your device, but this is all handling it in the cloud, which is really useful. So that's now kicking off. We'll come back and check in on that in a minute. While we're waiting for that, we'll just walk you through some of the latest and greatest features of the ShopBirdy platform, or shopping super app. So I think I already went through some of these things, but we have now integrated things like local services. So this is going to be able to take in my actual location and help me get more relevant responses from the back end. So that's really cool. We still have the existing features. I integrated a new visual search. I won't demonstrate it here, but it works pretty well actually. You can actually scan any product. So you basically, if you have ShopBirdy, you click this button, it'll open the camera, it will look at, you'll hold a product in the camera's viewport or within the camera's frame, and it will begin to reason about what it sees, and it slowly gets more and more confident because sometimes it happens real time. So sometimes you might be moving around a little bit, or you might want to rotate the product to show more of the details. It's collecting and accumulating more confidence until it gets to the point where it pretty confidently knows what you're looking for. And then you can do a price search for that and you get more information about that, which is really useful if you're in a foreign country and all the packaging is in a language that you can't actually understand or read. That can help you quite a bit. It's also great for doing price comparison in your shopping journey. So check out my shorts feed for an example of what that looks like. I'll probably improve that quite a bit because I think that adding multimodal like vision capabilities I think is really powerful. But there's a ton of things that go into that. So there's like you want to also manage the resource consumption, because like if you're running the camera, it will use up more battery and it will use more processing. So you want to make sure you have optimized code for that, and so that you're focused on just what you want to scan for and so on and so forth. But I think that's actually a really powerful tool. That is the scanning feature. A few other things that I integrated as well. So we actually now have a login system. So I was talking about this before. If you are subscribed to me on my YouTube channel, you'll be able to log into this and get extra benefits. So you'll get basically full access of all the cool features, and you'll have more privileges and more functionality available to you. That's a unique feature that I have not seen any other companies really take advantage of that. A lot of influencers, a lot of online advertisers and brands will always tell you, please subscribe to my channel, please subscribe, like, share, all these things. But no one is actually, as far as I've seen, and I mean it's been years now, but no one has actually integrated linked the channel subscriber with an application that gives them some kind of privilege or other benefits. So I believe this is one of the firsts, if not the first in the world to do that. And it just makes sense. I mean, it's very logical. So you could say, for example, if you subscribe to my channel on YouTube and you add my video to your playlist, I will in return grant you or gift you some tokens or some privileges or some access. So that's pretty cool. Extra discounts on my online store and those kinds of things. So this is an example of how you could do that. In addition to that, I've also integrated right now it's a mock-up wallet where you'll be able to load credits or funding into your ShopBirdy wallet, and then you could essentially either earn coupons, buy vouchers, or even get free rewards. And this is right now it is just a mock-up, but this can be built out. The other thing I integrated was, well, there's a few different things. I also have a location-based merchant or shopping finder. So you can, with your ShopBirdy app, you can find in the map or nearby using location-based services where you can access certain deals and offers. So that's pretty cool. And I've also created so you'd be able to basically check into a merchant if you're there. Let's say I'm at Big C. I'm going to check into Big C and cool, get some points. You can see it's upgraded. It's added to my total points. We'll figure out what we want to do with those points a little bit later, but that's already built and ready to go. Now, the other thing I have is a shopping list. I'm already noticing a bug here because it should have saved my previous shopping list. I'll look into that a little bit later, but no worries. But let's say I want to build a shopping list. All right, and normally I could add them one by one, or I could just be using my AI shopping assistant, part of ShopBirdy. I'll say that I want to make, let's say Thai style fried rice with basil and chicken. List all the ingredients that I'll need to add to my cart. All right, so that's just a general prompt to say I want to make Thai style fried rice with basil, and it's telling me basil, chicken, and rice. That's pretty good. I think it could be more specific. Include all ingredients end to end. Let's see if that actually helps it a little bit more. Let's see, cancel that real quick. Let's try this more detailed prompt. We'll try it again. Yep, it's giving me the basic ones here, which is fine. Previously it was actually giving me much more details, like even things like the different sauces and powders and so forth, but that's already pretty good. So let's say I want to make Thai tom yum shrimp spicy. List all ingredients required. Let's try that. Shrimp tom yum paste. Yeah, basically. I mean, there's lots more. I'm probably oversimplifying this tool. I can probably go in and give it instructions to be more granular. Like, we need lime, we need fish sauce, we need galangal, we need lemongrass, we need chilies, we need if you'd like mushrooms, if you'd like coconut milk, all those kinds of things. But that's already pretty good. So that's a shopping list here. And if I am logged in, that should be saved to my account. So that's also pretty cool. All right, let's go back to see what Bolt did. Here we are. So it created this application. It called it Home Tasks, and it actually made it look like a dashboard. And the tasks are: vacuum the living room. It will take estimated 30 minutes. Organize kitchen cabinets. So it actually built this almost like a working project management tool, which is pretty funny. It seems to allow me to, I can actually toggle the languages. But so far so good. It wasn't actually what I imagined it to be. I don't know who that is. That may be a stock photo of the admin user. But I'd say it's actually pretty good. So far so good. Those are some of the planned, unassigned, my tasks, dashboard, planned tasks, urgent, general, due soon. Let me tell it that I have this bug. I have this text formatting bug. In addition to that, to fixing this bug, ensure that all the tasks mentioned previously are included. And then I will recopy my earlier prompt. Oh, I didn't save that. That's fine. Are included. It's laundry. Remember, we discussed laundry, meal prep, cleaning, organizing, meal prep, etc. be include include the full list and any other tasks that might be helpful. So we'll ask it to go further and be more verbose and build a more robust system. So that's gonna kick off now. When you get really good at coding or even prompting or vibe coding, you can actually begin to take all those individual components and integrate them into your overall system. You can integrate third-party APIs to help add web services into your application. So if you want to look up stuff from the web, if you want to have things like users logging in, logging out, those kinds of things, all of that would be possible once you get a little bit more advanced with your coding knowledge. But you can see here I've actually integrated OpenAI and Gemini into my search. I've integrated their search functionality into my application, so I can actually do price checks on any products in my catalog. And with the new scanning tool, if I don't have that product in the catalog, I can just point the camera at the thing that I want to scan, and if it's a product, it will go ahead and the system will actually search for that product online, search for the name, search for all the information about it, which is really useful. So we've talked about the wallet, coupons and rewards. We've talked about checking into locations. We've talked about having a shopping list integrated into the system using AI to help me build that out as well. We've talked about the design tool. This is one of my most favorite tools, actually. This is I really love this tool because you can think about anything in your life that you see on a day-to-day basis and look at it from a perspective of what would this product look like in 10, 20 years in the future, right? So in the prompt category, in the prompt library here, I've created a bunch of futuristic products that are based on products that we have today. Like, let's say you have graphene infused blackout curtains with e-ink window patterns that mimic sunrise animations. That's really cool because when you're living in like tropical and very hot country, the sunlight can be pretty intense, and and that affects your like energy usage, because then you have to adapt your air conditioning if you like it at a certain climate. And then so having like blackout curtains that can like block some of that really strong sunlight can be useful. But then you're like in a dark room, so then you might want to have like some kind of e-ink window patterns that mimic sunrise. So that can be like a tech, like that's a futuristic product, but it sounds like it would eventually come to be, right? It will probably exist at some point. Other things would be like a kettlebell like workout system, but it's like more smart with like LED lights. You could have like a self-chilling cocktail tumbler with phase change gel walls and glowing temperature glyphs at the rim. So this is like a smart glass, right? Like you get a drink and it actually tells you like what the temperature of the drink is, like already in that smart glass. Just a bunch of cool, awesome things. Interactive pet bowl duo with weight sensors and aura LED surface indicating meal progress. If you're a pet owner, if you just, all these most of these are like lifestyle things. Ultra thin flexible badge that displays NFT wardrobe tags framed in iridescent acrylic edge lighting. Magnetic levitating incense holder shaped like meteorite fragment. Ember sensing trigger, soft cosmic glow beneath. These are just rolling laundry basket robot in rattan texture bioplastic, mapping floor via LiDAR eyes. I mean, these are just fun, cool prompts, and you can go really wild with these and just come up with anything. I think like For example, right? Like I talked about having these smart boxing gloves, training mitts. I think would just be super super awesome. At some point, these have to come to be. I mean, it just makes total sense. Thailand tourism is massive. Mixed martial arts is one of the fastest growing sports globally. Um, a lot of people come to Thailand for training, to do those fitness camps, or maybe they're training for a bout or a match, and they want to get like expert coaching and great sparring and so forth. So a lot of people come here, and then if you had these cool like training mitts that could track your progress over time, I think that would be just an awesome experience. Let's go back and check the bolt thing. Okay, so it fixed that do soon thing, and then let me look to see. I I'm not quite thrilled with the mobile responsiveness of this, so I'm gonna actually ask it to. I'm gonna push it again. I'm just gonna ask it to maybe we'll switch to the diffs mode at this point. Maybe it doesn't need to reason so hard, but it just needs to take what it's already built and make some edits and adjustments. So I'm switching to a different model here. Now we're going to go to the diffs, which is just taking what's there and making it a little bit more enhanced or better in some ways. So I'll tell it to, in the tasks module, ensure we are more mobile responsive and improve the design to make it even better and more robust. You'll be surprised by just asking the AI models to make something even better or more robust actually seems to work really well. I've noticed, at least. So that's going to kick off. While I'm waiting for that to come back, we'll on this side generate a new product idea. So in this case, so this is a cool one. This here is it's a solar panel mat, which can serve as like a charging, you can do it through like inductive charging or whatever that is. So you can be out camping or having a picnic or whatever. You roll out this mat. It will use the sunlight to convert the sunlight into stored energy, and then it will use that stored energy to keep your devices charged using this kind of solar panel type technology, which is really awesome idea. I don't know if that exists. It sounds like it. I mean, it seems like it should exist. It just makes tons of sense. This is an e-ink, it's a magnetic levitating whiteboard. So if you want to like write down some ideas or sketch something out, typically you see these whiteboards, dry erase boards, and then this is a sort of a magnetized levitating system, which is, in the future that would make a lot of sense, right? You'd be able to do lots of things with cool like magnets and levitation and that kind of thing. Let's say let's build a instead of saying let's build, I'll just describe the product. Let's go to my scene real quick just to make sure that I've got all these cool scenes. So let's build let's just call it a smart ice box with let's say modern technology to display the temp contents, access log, and etc. So a smart ice box with modern technology to display the temperature, contents, access log, etc. This is something you find typically in tropical places. So let's say you want to keep beverages or food chilled, but you're living in a hot country, and then but you're also outdoors. So like, how do you keep something cool? Well, you could have like an ice chest or an ice box, and a lot of times some of the like local vendors will have these big ice boxes, and then they'll be pretty much in place, and then they'll go home for the night. They'll come back in the morning, and they'll be able to lock or unlock that, and all their stuff's still there, so they don't have to, schlep that from point A to point B. They can just keep it where it's at. And then because this is a icebox thing that is normally going to be some kind of outdoor, gosh, I feel like I should have way more scenes than this. This is like already a good amount, but we should have tons more. We'll say that it's outdoor. All right, we'll try it with an outdoor look, and then let's see what this does. Now, to use this AI generation, it now requires that you are logged in and subscribed. So I can click that button because I've met those requirements. But normally you would need to, it would prompt you to log in first if you're not logged in already, and then it will need to double check that you are subscribed to me on my YouTube channel. So that's going cool. It says Bolt says that on the, well, no, it's not quite as mobile responsive as I would have liked. I'll be more specific. The columns and buttons in the tasks page are still not mobile responsive enough. Fix the sizing and spacing and layout to better fit for smaller, let's say, screens, and look great on desktop also. So we'll see if that prompt will actually, because you can see here like there's some overflow. The text length is actually exceeding the length of this column or this container. So we've got to either wrap it. We can't really wrap that because that's a single word, so it will look strange. So we'll probably need it to expand the spacing and the padding and the margin for that particular component. I'll also ask it to make this sidebar collapsible so that we can see more of the screen. It did some things, I think, pretty well. Let's look at it from a more desktop perspective. Yeah, I probably want it to be more specific, and then you can mark these as in progress, completed, so forth. That's cool. So everything's now completed. I can delete this. Nice. I can edit this. Okay, cool. Yeah, so overall, I think this is pretty useful. Yeah, it's to-do list, home tasks, and then there's an activity. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so you have like a dashboard for your life, for your household. You know, if you've got a complex life or a complex household and you're doing a ton of things, and sometimes you need help or you just need to get organized, you know, having some kind of tool that you can interact, or you can like you and the other people involved can be all on the same page, I think is really useful. But I would say that let's be more specific. Let's ask for let's make the sidebar panel collapsible, and let's make the, let's say, the tasks column more mobile responsive with better style and icons integrated. So we'll add icons into that. Let's see if the diffs model can do that. I think it should be able to. If not, I'll switch back to the more dynamic reasoning, the bigger model. And then, so here's our smart icebox. Kind of funny. I mean, it looks pretty cool. So it would have this like readout screen, and you know, it would tell you things like the battery, the lock, lights, when the access log was when it was last opened and closed, that kind of thing, what's in the contents. So that's actually pretty cool. Again, we're coming up with product ideas that probably never existed before. So I mean, some of this stuff is just purely our imagination. I'll see if that allows me to save that to my gallery. It looks like it does work, and then I can hide that or delete that. So yeah, so I now have it a public gallery. So when you come to when you come to ShopBirdy and you make your creations and your designs, you can actually then publish that and share it with the community. Let's use one of my other prompts here for a second. What's a good one? Fold flat induction camp stove, cotton linen ottoman, graphite infused blackout curtains with e-ink patterns that mimic sunrise animation. That sounds super cool. I don't know if there's tons of training data of what that would look like, so I'm not sure exactly. Probably the model would be able to produce something pretty cool, but it's such a like new idea, or there's just probably not a lot of references, that it would have to be really creative to make that look realistic. Let's say that compost accelerator bin with biochar cartridges and glowing progress spiral on side panel. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Temperature adaptive hooded scarf knitted in color morph yarn. Heat map embroidery reveals thermal zone. That's actually pretty cool. Ultra thin flexible badge. Interactive pet bowl duo with weight sensors and aura. This one we can probably realistically do. So we'll do pet bowl. So there's probably a duo, which means there's probably food and water. And I can switch through all the different scenes because I either want to really highlight that product, or I want to integrate that cool product within a more broader scene. Urban green wall, vertical garden of lush foliage, okay, cosmic splash panel, marble, flat lay luxe, top down marble slab, color pop retail shelf, monochrome room with one vivid color slice making packaging colors, neon, infinite white cyclorama. Let's just do this one. This will just give me, it will put that product front and center. So now I'm going to make that interactive pet bowl duo, and while that's going, okay, so now I have the collapsible sidebar. That's cool. Yeah, these tasks, this task section here, just for me, it's just not quite what I'm looking for right now. So I'm gonna go in here and look at this code real quick. What we're looking for is the tasks part. Well, obviously task is going to be appearing here in a ton of places. It's this thing, I think. I think it's this. Yeah, it's this section here. I'm going to ask Bolt to make this more responsive and ensure that the text labels for tasks fit well within the panel without overflowing or weird layout issues. And I'll see if it can figure that out. So I'm actually pinpointing it to this actual line of the code, which is where the container starts, and we're going to see if that can actually fix this. Let's see, it's doing the thing now. It sort of made a change, but not quite. A little bit better. Again, not terrible, right? I mean, and ideally this should also work for, let's see. Is there an issue? There's also an issue there. Yeah, it's not mobile responsive. A few little bugs in that. Probably, I don't really know what is the main issue here. Maybe I gave it too much in the beginning, but it should be able to do that. I don't see why. Possibly it got too focused on the UI framework and just the app is not mobile responsive enough. It doesn't look great on smartphone. Let's see if I can be more specific. There's an alignment issue and extra gap space. Please fix and make it look great on smartphones. Be thorough. Let's say be thorough. I'll just give it that as a prompt. I've also changed it to the more advanced reasoning model, so hopefully it will spend more of its thinking time in compute to really think about that, and it might need to rewrite some things. Okay, while that's going, oh, that's kind of cool. Here's the interactive pet bowl duo with weight sensors and Aura LED surface indicating meal progress. So it's actually taking how much kibble or whatever this this pet food is into consideration, and saying green is meaning it's full here, blue is the water bowl, maybe that's empty, time for a refill. But that just looks really cool. I just really like that. I'm gonna save that to the gallery. And I used the scene of I think I used Infinite White Cyclorama, which says a pure white sweet background with a single softbox reflection, no distraction, perfect for hero packaging. And that's kind of what this is. You can see the product in the middle, and it's just in this sort of empty room, and that's cool. Love that. Yeah, that's really awesome. So that's another cool thing about using AI, is that like it can help you create new product categories that didn't exist. But the prompt is to try to use mostly off-the-shelf technology. So technology that probably could exist together today if combined smartly and in an interesting way. All right, that is the yep, I've got my saved render. So at some point I'll be able to share these into the gallery. But yeah, that's where I'm at with this. I've added more super app-like functionalities. The scanning tools, it took me a bunch of time to do that. I had to rewrite. I had to rewrite the code probably probably like 3 or 4 times before I finally got something that I was happy with. Right now I'm sort of at the limit or at the edge of what the AI models are capable in terms of the features that I want it to produce, and then like the standards and the quality that I really want. There's maybe just not tons of training data just yet for the things that I'm asking it for. But every new model, I think like Claude 4 just came out this last couple days, that already is like another step forward. It was able to refactor some code and give me some nice help actually, and that is a noticeable improvement over the previous model. So that's been a very welcome piece of news in the AI landscape. Let's go back to this thing. Yeah. So at this point, I would normally, when I get to somewhat more complex projects, what you can do is you can download this, or you can export this, and then you can start working on it locally. So while this is obviously functional and it has some nice design and cool tasks or cool functions and so forth, for me it's not yet ready for other users to use, right? So I would need to spend a little bit more time like fleshing that out. But that said, this is a huge improvement over what it would have normally taken just a couple years ago to build something like this. Like you'd probably have to hire someone to do this, or you'd have to learn how to do it. It would probably take you days, if not a couple of weeks, to get all this done. And you can, like, in a single shot or just in a few shots, you can actually mock something up that looks actually pretty cool. So organized kitchen cabinets, the timing on this, the assignment. So I think this is also just kind of cool just to help visualize like how much time certain tasks take for people to do, right? And then like, these chores and that kind of thing, it's a form of work, right? And so like the question is like, what's your time, like how do you value your time? So like, yes, you could do this yourself, but if you're doing this, does that mean that you won't be able to work on something like, a super app for ShopBirdy, for example? So it's really about like trying to figure out like how can you delegate, or how can you like have on-demand help to help you get certain things accomplished, and then to make that flow, to make that whole kind of task assignment, task like posting, task completion, and even if there's some form of payment for those kinds of tasks, how do you use AI to help like organize that, facilitate that end to end? And then how do you like, you know, define what you mean by what certain jobs or tasks you want to do? And then that helps if you want people to bid for that task. That helps people understand like what they're bidding for, like what's the total scope of work, and what's the expected turnaround time, and that kind of thing. And so I just think this whole idea of on-demand help or assistance is, with AI, is going to make things like much more efficient. So we'll be able to create more market efficiencies because we'll be able to match supply and demand for just about anything. So ShopBirdy right now is mostly focused on shopping, because I think the thing about shopping is like it's something that we all have to do, right? We are a consumer-based society, so like the vast majority of the shopping that occurs in the world is done by individuals, and which is, well, I mean, that sounds obvious, but the thing of it is, it's like it's also probably one of the biggest or largest component of our own personal budgets. And people, generally speaking, are not great with managing their personal budgets. I mean, there's software to help you do that and so forth. But I mean, I think, just understanding how to allocate your own time, your own resources, is even more important than learning how to invest in stocks, because for the most part, the best course for people to invest in stocks is to just mostly be passive investors. So you buy a fund, a properly diversified fund, and you sort of set it and forget it. You just dollar cost average into it, or you contribute to it in a regular cadence, and you don't try to worry too much about managing your individual investments and overly optimizing your portfolio. It shouldn't become your full-time job to do your long-term investing, right? But the everyday things, like doing your laundry, cooking food, eating, buying food, organizing the things that you bought, those are things that we don't really, we probably don't spend as much time thinking about as we do looking up stock, prices, and doing reports and research and equity analysis and that kind of thing. We just kind of let it we just kind of, in this case, just kind of go with the flow a little bit. We just see a price, we just pay it, and we don't really think about it. But if we're not careful, that's kind of how inflation creeps up on us. It's because we're not actually minding our household budgets. I feel like home economics is something that used to be taught pretty widely in schools, and at least when I was growing up, a student in the United States, we had home economics. You would understand what an ounce is, what a liter is. You'd learn how to buy things in bulk, and then prepare meals, or if you're gonna make a batch of cookies, you try to figure out how much dough you would need, and other toppings and that kind of thing, and you would portion that out, and you would plan, and it would be time for it to cook and then cool, and then all those sorts of things. That's forms of work, right? Even if it's just for our own self, our own consumption. But I don't feel like people really understand these basics as well as they probably should. And as a result, they lose I think sometimes they lose the they lose track of the value of a dollar, or of the value of their time, and they don't take a second to think about how to actually think ahead a few steps, how to get a better deal for themselves. How could you structure it so that maybe buying in bulk, maybe making a bigger purchase now is actually better for you in the longer run, or at least in the medium term. How could you how could you ask people to come, help you in that, if it's a group order, or maybe you're going to buy so much that you need other people to help you consume it. So or maybe you need help to, you know assemble furnitures, or clean your living space, or any of these things that are part of daily life, right? So I look at ShopBirdy as how AI actually impacts us in our everyday life, and how everyone can benefit from AI in that sense. And again, trying to meet supply, demand, come up with a price point or a value exchange that makes sense for both parties, or all sides of the marketplace, and hopefully create opportunities for people, right? Because I just see lots of inefficiencies, and I just think that's kind of how inflation creeps up, and I think that's the big battle that everyone's trying to, everyone's focused on right now, is the inflation picture, the consumer price index, the input costs, and so forth. And I think a lot of us just focus on the day to day. And I mean, that makes sense, right? Because we can't really predict the future. But I think if you can take more of a medium to longer term view, you might change some of your habits a little bit. You might change your buying, your purchasing a little bit. You might decide that, I can spend 30 minutes to prepare this food. I can spend, however many minutes to do these different tasks. Or I could outsource that, right? I could have a service provider do those jobs for me. I could, instead of just buying dinner on demand every night, I could think a little bit more, in advance, and start preparing dinners. And then what would I need to buy if I want to prepare dinners for a week or a month? And then you could use something like a ShopBirdy with the shopping list thing, and it could help you figure that out. And then it could actually help you find what the price points are. Because if you look at prices, a lot of times they're based on net weight. So in many cases, the more that you buy, the more that you would save on a per unit basis. So if you could find things that come in bulk or in packages, right? It's good for the supplier because they can sell more within a single purchase. The average order value is a little bit higher. And then for the buyer, it's great because if you actually did the math on that, it's actually cheaper per wash cycle, for example, if you bought this in bulk. And these are things, this home economics, this kind of like, per unit, per weight, per gram, per use planning, I don't think people really think about. Like if I bought this, this Downy French lavender, fabric softener, do I actually know how many like loads of laundry that this would actually last for, right? Like you could use AI to actually help you answer that question. So let's try, right? Let's say I want to ask about this particular product. It tells me all about it, and then I'll say like approximately how many loads of laundry would this provide me, right? Assuming, so it's going to do the math for me. It's going to look at the typical measurements, right? Looking at how many liters in the bottle, and then how many like milliliters is that, and how many would you use per dose or per usage. And then it would say like, therefore, a 1.1 liter of Downy fabric softener could potentially provide you with approximately 40 to 50 loads of laundry, depending on the exact amount you use per load. That's really useful information. So like if I'm buying ingredients for a restaurant, I'd want to know like if I bought this package of, I don't know, ketchup or salad dressing, how many like servings would that provide me, right? So I think there's a way to kind of, if you think broadly, you can kind of tie all this together and think, okay, so if we are indeed living in the future, right, or we're living in an AI era, these are the kinds of things, like everyday things, that I would want AI to help me with, right? If I'm looking to make a purchase, like, help me plan that out, help me forecast that, help me project that out. Like, what would be the best course of action for me? If you know what my life is like, what my tasks are, what kind of washing machine I have, how much laundry I typically do, if I'm preparing meals, like how many people am I preparing meals for on a typical nightly or daily basis, right? Like, how many people are going to be eating, what are the dietary things? So if you had this kind of system, I think it would be really useful. And then all of this thing, I think, would eventually start to smooth out some of the volatility. And I think this predictability is actually going to it would help everyone involved, right? I mean, yes, there are people who profit from, you not being such an informed shopper. I mean, that's just the case. And then in other cases where you're willing to pay a substantial premium on something just for the convenience, or because, like, it's a limited supply, and that's all fair for sure. But when you multiply that out over a massive population for many months, if not years, you start to see, like, you could allocate your funds, your resources, your time, your energy in more optimized ways. And ideally, that's what AI should be able to help me do. I should be able to get my shopping list, get a sense of what the right prices would be, figure out where are the merchants, or what are the options for me to actually buy those products, compare whether or not that would make sense for me to go and pick that up myself, or should I hire a delivery driver, for example. Then once I have those products, how many meals would that last me? And then start to begin to plan my restocking, for example. So these are all just sort of ways in which we can use AI and help it to improve our lives. So this is kind of a big picture, like, long-term thing, but I think it's important because these small improvements that we can make into different parts of our lives, I think, will have compounding, or at least aggregated benefits over time. And I think it would just help everyone, right? We're trying to figure out what things are worth, and we can look at that from a supply side, demand side. Like, if we increase supply, does that mean that demand, do we now have too oversupply? Does that reduce does that reduce the equilibrium price because we have now way too much of something? If we're restricting supply, does that now inflate the price of something because we have too much demand? How do we get efficient price equilibrium? As a society, I think it's a good idea to try to work towards those things and not always be overly profit motivated. Like, I'd love to build a business where it's sustainable, where people make money, but it also helps people, right? And, like, I'm trying to figure out how to do that, this, US to Thailand, to build a kind of a Southeast Asia oriented supply chain to help consumers in the US. And the same thing is vice versa, right? How do we get some of the great products and things from the US over to Thailand? I love avocados, right? There's lots of varieties of avocados, but the type that I particularly like is a certain kind of variety, and they're mostly coming from California, Mexico, some parts of South America, and in some cases New Zealand and Australia. But these are very specific avocados, and they have costs, and they're in America they're pretty abundant. In Southeast Asia, they're a little bit more premium, right? So you're going to pay 2 to 3 times more per avocado, and then there's less supply of them. And then a lot of times, because of supply and those sorts of things, you're having to buy them before they're actually ready to eat. So they may not necessarily be ripe yet. So you're shipping, avocados that are gonna have to still take time to ripen. And so that's just a simple thing, is like, how do I, if I just look at it from a very, selfish perspective, how do I get great high quality avocados that I personally love to eat at better prices? How do I do that? And maybe the demand is so great for avocados, like US and Mexican avocados, that they can't keep up with the supply. But also, maybe there's a whole bunch more potential buyers that would love to have those avocados. And so, like, maybe that just increases the market size, right? Increases the size of the pie. So that's just a simple example. And then on the other side, like, there are tons of amazing, authentic Thai foods and goods and things that come from Southeast Asia as this tropical area, that people in the United States, maybe in the Midwest, maybe in the East Coast, wherever you may be, you're like, you would love to have that. But a lot of these mapping systems rarely show you, even the one I'm using here in this example, rarely show you how to cross the Pacific, right? Do you see how it's flickering like that? It's because this is where the international time zone is, or the day changes. This is the anti-meridian line. And even the sophisticated mapping software haven't figured that out, because you're on different days, right? Here is like the next day, here is yesterday, and then like, so you can't even draw a direct line using traditional like mapping software. So most people look at the world from this perspective. They look at it as US is over here on the left, and then Thailand is way on the other side, and it always focuses with Europe here in the middle, Europe and Africa, Middle East, North Africa in the middle. But I'm like thinking about it more from this perspective, because I look at this, right, from Alaska to Hawaii, right? If you look at this zone here, I mean, this is now US waters, so technically the US extends really close to Asia. If you actually consider like the US here, then, and this is like a gateway here, like this is like a entryway to this massive economy. And it's the distance is great. I mean, the Pacific Ocean, I think, is the biggest, but it's relatively smooth sailing. So you just have to get over the fact of the distance and just think about it from, these are two massive, like this rim, right, the Pacific Rim, these are massive economic, this is a massive economic zone if you were able to trade between these two places. And because of just the way of thinking, we've always looked at it as this impossible thing. Like, it's all the way on the other side. Look how far I have to travel. But you actually don't. Like, you're already here. Once you get into Hawaii, you're already in US waters. And then you're just passing from Thailand through Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Philippines. You have Taiwan there, Japan. And then you're already into Hawaii. And even if you didn't necessarily need to stop in Hawaii, you're just going all the way through to Southern California, then you're already here in this wonderful, like, Southern California, LA, Orange County, San Diego, tons of ports, tons of places to dock and unload your products, and vice versa, to debark or to embark from as well. So, like, my idea is like there's got to be ways to like make the math work, right, to make it make sense. And I do believe that is absolutely the case. And food delivery is, I understand, it is a difficult business, but the reality is that, like, you can actually build a sustainable model if you're using there are things in the unit economics that you have to get right. Okay, so you definitely need to figure out, how does the customer who's going to pay for the groceries, how do they work in their fees to that overall order? How does the delivery rider, how did they get paid fairly, a fair wage for their efforts? And then how do you, like, as a business providing this service, this matching service, and then the technology, how do you get your percentage of the profit? And I've been working on this, looking at lots of different, at this point, online food ordering, groceries, delivery, ride hailing. There's something in the middle that doesn't quite exist, which I think is the non-food, non-perishable goods, right? Things that in the US you would just think I'm ordering it from Amazon, but Amazon is not necessarily everywhere in the world. And there are some things that you would like same day or next day delivery on. And the unique thing about Southeast Asia is because so many people have motorbikes, it's probably more common than actual cars. Each of these motorbikes is effectively an asset that people can monetize. So a lot of people become part-time delivery drivers. Most of that is just doing rides. So they're helping people, they're transporting people. Another big chunk of that is food. So they'll go to the restaurant, pick up the food, and deliver it to you. There's something in the middle where you're buying either groceries or non-food items, like let's say, for example, light bulbs or batteries or laundry detergent, right? Or soap, other things like that, right? So those are things where you're gonna do laundry and then you realize, oh, I don't have any laundry detergent. I need to go do that. And now I need to plan I need to plan a whole trip to the store just to do that. And it's important enough that I need to get it done, but it's also something that I have to manage my other priorities as well. And so it's like, if I take an hour or two out of my day to go and do that, right, what does that mean? That means I won't be able to do other tasks, which I could, if I had the time to do those other tasks, I could actually pay for the convenience of having someone else go and order that for me. So in the model that I'm working out here, it's not complete yet. It's basically something whereby I think you need to have kind of a minimum order value, like order value, right? Like it's got to make sense. If you're talking about food, if you're just buying like rice, noodles, that kind of pre-made meal just for one person, maybe a bubble tea or something like that, then that can make sense. But it's a little bit more costly, and then it maybe like it's hard, to build a sustainable business on that. That may be a loss leader for some companies. But I think from my perspective, I think for me, I want to have, if ShopBirdy was able to deliver products or to offer, shopping services, for you, I think we'd probably have to build in some rules. Like it has to be like minimum four or more products. Okay, so if you're just going to buy one pack of batteries, it may not make sense from an average order value perspective, so that we can work in the commissions and the service fees and the delivery fees to make it all work. But if you were to build at least a basket size of, let's say, at least $11, then I think there's enough margin for this to make sense. And so, because there's the opportunity cost as well. If you're a rider and you're either way, you're gonna be traveling from one place to the other. If you're only delivering one item versus 3 or 4 or more items, it's still going to take you the same amount of time and roughly the same amount of fuel costs. So better to actually aggregate the demand so you can get more products per that order. And that's what I'm trying to build out. And I'm pretty close to actually having the whole unit economics figured out and building out the whole growth plan for that and how much money would be required to kick off this business. But I think for the most part right now, I've been looking at only the e-commerce. Most of them are focused on fashion and other things like that. Again, obviously they're not non-perishable, so it's not like you have to deliver it immediately or the food goes bad. But at the same time, there's the other class of online delivery, which I'll add probably to this, as it's also somewhat related. Like you have Bolt. This is not the Bolt that we were talking about before. This is a different Bolt. This is like a Uber, but it's called Bolt. There's another one in here in Thailand. You have Grab. You had Food Panda. They just exited. Food Panda is now merged or was acquired by Robinhood in Thailand. Robinhood is not the same Robinhood that we know in the U.S. or the online the stock trading and options and brokerage app. Robinhood here is a food delivery platform. So you have Lineman also. So you have several different food delivery, and some of them are going into grocery stores. You have some of the big box retailers who do offer personal shopping, concierge, or delivery services. But typically they're either they're using a full-time employee to go and deliver them to the local neighborhood within that close by to that store, or they're putting it in a van or a truck and doing batched orders. There's still something in the middle, and I think for me, the riders who are in between, so like in between the food rush hours, right? In those middle hours between meals, right? And if they're not dropping people off, transporting them like, as a ride hailing, is there a third thing that they could do, which is buying everyday goods, right? These were consumer packaged goods, um, soaps, toothpaste, detergents, this kinds of things, light bulbs, non-perishable, relatively higher order value things, um, and can fit within the constraints of their storage, their storage boxes or bins that they connect to their bikes. I think there's a great opportunity for that, and it's something that you don't need. You could start very small, right? You could start with just a very limited set of like people to place the orders and people to fulfill the orders, and you could even start it with just a single location, just one big retailer like a Big C or something like that, and you could start it with just one condo building or a group of apartment buildings nearby in a certain very specific delivery zone, and you could make it work. And then once you've proven that out, and then once you have people who are repeat buyers, because again, when I'm doing the unit economics on this, repeat orders are so important. And that's why I need the experience to be really good. Like, we need to have a great app, and we need to have really reliable, because if we are going to like work to get a lot of people onto the platform, and then they're not having a great first time experience, or the delivery item gets messed up, or those kinds of things, the whole economics of the system, the whole plan, breaks. It falls apart, because you need to factor in at least some amount of repeat orders. And in my case, I'm looking at it as a minimum of a minimum order value, and I want people to be buying, one person buying for each shopper, they should have a 25% chance, 30% chance that they'll buy a second time, minimum. So we need some percentage of the people who buy once to also buy twice, 3 or 4 times more after that. If they only buy the first time and they never shop again, the unit economics don't really work out. But if I give them some free credits that you can spend to do this system, right? You can buy something, get it delivered reliably, and you're happy with it, and you realize, gosh, this is very similar to the other services I'm using. I'm just buying a different category of products, but there's still things that I need, not something that I would need to necessarily get a huge bulk order of, not something that I necessarily need to have immediately, although that can be an option. Like, if you're running out of batteries for something, you need batteries, okay, you can get batteries, right? Or if you need a light bulb, or you need a laundry detergent or something, right? You can get those relatively quick turnaround, but I would need people to be happy enough that they would want to have a repeat purchase after the first one. So that's why it's really important for me to make sure I have a great user experience and I really nail these unit economics, because if that happens, then I believe that this can really take off. I mean, it just makes tons of sense. And there's lots of potential supply out there. Everyone who has a motorcycle, who's already been using Food Panda or Grab or these other services as side jobs or even full-time jobs, right? A lot of them are basically freelancers, so they can turn on different platforms at different times of the day. They can, they're very flexible in that way. So when there's a lack of certain orders during off-peak hours, maybe they'll want to switch to a different kind of product to deliver, right? And then maybe they can expand into groceries and other things. Again, it has to be, not tons of products, but it has to be a minimum amount. It would have to be something that can deliver for you. And so if I have a curated catalog of, items and things that would be transportable using these delivery riders, then I think it would make a lot of sense, right? And then for other people who love to go shopping at the store, this tool is fantastic as well, because you can look at something and then you can compare it. If you're looking at it to see what the list price is, and then you want to just double check, get a reality check of, what is the potential range for a product like this, and if it falls within a reasonable range and you're happy with the price and you're already there, then you're like, yeah, I'll just buy it. I'm here. Other times you may say, I'd like that delivered though. I don't have tons of, I don't have the ability to carry a ton of this stuff with me. Maybe I will buy a few small items that I can carry with me, and then for other things, I'm at the store. I've already seen what it is. I'll add it to my list, and then I'll order that for later. So that helps with the whole kind of showrooming thing where people go to the store to find the things, but then they buy them online for other retailers. At least in this way, you can actually capture more of that. And I think for retailers, if they can offer shopping services, that would be very helpful. Again, especially because you have lots of people who come to Thailand as tourists. They have money to spend, but it's just maybe just like, maybe they don't know what necessarily to buy, what's a good brand, what's a good price, how do I get this to my hotel room. I can't really sign up for online delivery because I'm not here long enough to have a residential address. So how do I get that if I'm at a hotel? So I think there's just tons of shopping, and we know how big shopping is in countries like Thailand. It's a massive part of the economy. Actually, every country I think would have consumer shopping as a massive part of their economy. So, and then there's just lots of different things. Maybe you're also working in an office and you want to decorate your office, or you want to decorate your workspace a little bit, and maybe you have some budget from your employer to spend that on, and then maybe you can just load that right in through ShopBirdy, expense it all, have it delivered to your office. And then it's great for the delivery drivers because then they know exactly like what building to go to, right? They just go to the building to building, and they can drop it in the lobby, or they meet you and so forth, and you do the transaction, you pay for it, or you prepay for it and you just deliver it there. So there's this potential, I think, to build ShopBirdy into this super app for shopping that fills in, I think, a few of the different gaps in the market as I see them today. And having been here for so many years, building something, at least for me as a customer, and I think that's one of the best things is like if you can imagine yourself being the one of the first users for something, and then going back to like my days in a B2B context, doing big doing big contracts with corporate clients. A lot of times they ask you to sign up as a vendor on their system. So to get paid, or for them to do business with you, you need to become a supplier in their system, and then they have their own purchase order system. So what that means is that, well, if you're placing a big order, you have more leverage. You can ask people to adopt your software, or adopt your way of purchasing, of procurement, because you are such a big buyer. And I think that's something that, maybe by myself as just a single guy, I can't implement my own purchasing system and fulfillment system. But if I made a big enough order, if I had enough people with me, then I'm sure that these companies would be willing to adapt or adopt these systems, because I'm going to be bringing them lots of business. So, and I'm trying to make it as easy and transparent as possible, so everyone understands, like, these are how the margins look, this is what the profit profile looks like, here's the process of everything. This order processing pipeline is not 100%. Ignore that part. But I'm trying to build out something here where you can actually see how does it work. Customer checks out for 400 baht worth of goods, about $11. We capture the payment. We take a small commission for that. We collect fees. Then we do the delivery and the payout, and then we settle with those chains, right? Or those vendor, the merchants, with some payment terms. So, we are basically financializing this flow, and you're able to do that if you're purchasing in bigger bulk orders, right? Once you can bring more, purchasing power, then you can actually kind of get people to adopt your system, because they would be getting large orders from you. So if I can get everything, figured out here, then I believe that we can have the writer app, we can have the customer app, and we can have the merchant or the product supplier application, and integrate everything and AI into all of that, and grow, I think, a very big business and approve a model that can expand, because we've seen how well those online ordering and how e-commerce has grown around the world, right? And then the next thing on that is this sort of on-demand services, ride hailing, food delivery, groceries, right? And I guess even Airbnb is starting to add more local services into it, and all of these things. I mean, because I think that just trusting like reviews on like platforms, I don't necessarily know that that's the best thing to best way to. So I think having our own system where we can have our own curated products, right? We can have actual legitimate reviews. People can actually say this is actually a great product, right? Not just having these this default things, or we actually have people who can actually vouch for certain things. It builds more trust. You can get like, again, we don't have to have a million products. We just have to have great products and things that people are going to want to purchase regularly, right? Staples, things that people are going to almost subscribe to in some sense, right? Like, you probably, once you find the laundry detergent that you like, you're gonna stick with that for a while, right? Just like you like some kind of soap or whatever, body wash. You'll of course look for new things as you discover, but for the most part, like, a lot of these staples are almost like subscription kind of products. And Amazon Basics has their own that kind of thing, but these staples, these consumer packaged goods, right? If I want a steady supply of sparkling water, right? Or I need every 6 months, I want to replace my plastic bowls, for example. Like, there are things that you can streamline and organize and actually bring lots of benefits to everyone involved in the whole ecosystem, the whole economy, when you can actually bring in all these moving parts. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's a big vision, but I think it's worth pursuing, because at this point, I want to do something that just goes beyond software, right? Like, I've done the B2B software where you're charging for software, you're charging for software development services. I don't think that model necessarily works anymore. I think AI, DeepSeek, and others have completely changed the game in that sense. Like, the software, right now, the AI models are producing the vast majority of the software out there. You're now essentially compiling the software from companies like Bolt and other places to build your own apps for you, for your unique use case, for your users, right? For your own data, everything within your own environment. And if you want to make a change to that, you just connect your GitHub, or you just connect your project to it, and you can just add more features to it. And over time, it's just going to do that even faster and automatically. So the days of like telling someone like, I'm going to build this software for you if you pay me for it, I don't necessarily know that that's the best business model going forward. I think what's more interesting is, like, I'm bundling all these services, and I'm using software to coordinate everything and provide a really great experience. And I just want you to use my app, and there'll be ways to monetize it, but I want to go for consumers, right? I want more and more users. To me, I think that's the winning strategy, the winning playbook. The US I think the difference between, let's say, China and the US, the China internet model is to get as many users as possible, so you have a huge customer base, right? You have massive scale and tons of users, which gives you lots of data and tremendous purchasing power when you can have all these users look at a product, potentially buy it. On the US side, I think if you're looking more on the software side, a lot of the companies are looking to only go to business software, enterprise software, and they're trying to maximize revenue. They don't need millions of users, they just need a few hundreds or thousands of users, and they want to sell them very expensive premium things. I'm more in the middle. I'm like, I want lots of users. Yes, I'm happy to charge a bit of a premium, but to me, I'm more balanced towards I just want more users, because in the age of AI, you need all that. You need more data. You want to have more users behind you as a huge customer base, because then you can do advertising, then you can do campaigns, you can do lots more if you have tons of users. Um, and I think the thing is, like, most companies have figured out that there's only a few sources to get users from, and then you have user acquisition costs to advertise to them. But I think there's other models, right? I think there's social media, just building a brand, even starting small, but just with a concentrated set of users, and then recruiting people to join. I think that is, for me, I think that's more of a sustainable business model. So it's not that I would spend a ton of money on advertising or marketing ShopBirdy with paid advertising. More like I would offer them coupons and vouchers and other things for them to spend money on the platform, and for us to reimburse them for that, or to provide them some free money in the wallet, and then make sure that they're happy so that they want to come back and purchase more and more. And then this becomes a whole operating system for the economy, right? From getting products and goods and services and people and everything to the places they need to be, and facilitating that. And I think if you do that, and you're very transparent about it, and you're fair, and you build a sustainable business model. I don't see why you necessarily have to build a business that is negative profit, right? You're operating at a loss for so long. Yeah, I mean, there may be times when you want to go ahead and invest ahead of the revenue growth, but I think with AI now, we should be able to come up with very sustainable unit economics. But of course, this is the kind of thing that does benefit from capital, right? Because you're transforming investment dollars into marketplace liquidity. And the key to all of that is the stickiness of the consumer, right? If you have a sticky product where once the user comes to your platform, creates an account, downloads the app, whatever it may be, are they likely to continue with you, right? And if so, then you can build a sustainable business, and you can continue to layer on more modules, more features, more ways for them to gain benefits and gain utility from your platform. And of course, because it is AI powered and there's lots of different AI features, we do need to monetize it to make this sustainable. But I don't see how that's completely out of the realm of possibility. And I'd be much more interested in providing lots of job opportunities for people to make money on the platform, to save money, save time, to coordinate people. I think that is from what I've seen, if you want to build a unicorn in Southeast Asia, typically you have to build something that is essentially a marketplace, right? Online travel booking, hotel travel booking, flights, experiences, e-commerce, food ordering, and ride hailing, right? These are matching supply and demand. So these marketplace models, I think, are the ones that actually are the most likely to be sustainable. Even payment processing, but like in terms of just building business software, I don't see that as becoming a unicorn level opportunity. And it's counterintuitive, because a lot most investors are like, you got to sell the enterprise, you got to have these great logos on your website. But the enterprises have so much leverage, and they can, a lot of times they need multiple bids. They need to have other, you would necessarily need to have other competitors that you're pitching against, so that they can have a fair bidding process. So that means now you're facing competition, and then then there's just tons of services you need to provide, because they don't want to just give you tons of free profit. They want you to be investing that into their support with account management and other things like that. So the margins on just enterprise software, I think, it's not a mirage, but it's not as healthy as people might think. And I'm much more comfortable taking even a lower margin, but a tremendously higher volume, more liquid marketplace, and just growing. Because e-commerce, even if you said, gosh, how can you go against Shein, Temu, and Walmart and these big companies? Well, e-commerce is projected to double in the next 5 years. So I mean, there's tremendous room. There will be plenty of room. Okay, it's the whole sector is gonna grow to almost 2 trillion by like 2030 or something like that. If you combine the U.S. and the Thai e-commerce, so I mean, it's doubling. It's gonna double, right? And so in like by 2030, I think we're gonna get there. So there's plenty of space. So if you're looking for the next 5 years, a market that's projected to double, that's already in the trillions, that's huge. And I think anytime you're helping people make money or save money or helping them make purchases, right? If you're somehow involved with that sort of checkout flow, there's possibility for you to make some revenues, some margin from that. So I think the whole ShopBirdy concept is something that can be massive. But we'll start with what we have, and that's a great shopping experience. Very sticky app. I don't go I Anywhere I'm going to shop, I'm now using this app. I'm first looking to see if I already have that product in my catalog. If I see a product on the store shelves that I previously seen in my catalog, there's a brand there's like a recognition factor there that's actually really hard to measure. But it's like, I've seen that before. I've actually seen that product before. It's like, wow, okay, cool. Like, I'll look at that even more closely. Like, it's not just a blur to me. I've actually seen that product in my catalog. And then I'm gonna look more into that product, and I'll see like, oh, what is the price range for that? What's the list price? Where are other people selling it for? To find out like, oh, that's actually a fair price, or that's a good price, that's a good deal, or it's within the range. So then I feel confident because I've seen the product. I pretty much roughly know how much it should be costing me if I were to buy it, and so on and so forth. So that's. And then now with the scanning tool, any product that I don't have in my catalog, I can just look it up using my phone or using the camera, and then do a product search on that. So it's really useful, and I find, again, not every product yet can be found by AI, but we're getting a better index and more data to help make that more reliable. But this was listed here at 150. It's currently selling between 170, not 190 to 165. So yeah, that seems like it'd be a good price if I can find it for that. That seems like it'd be a good price. So that gives me more confidence as a shopper, as a buyer, right? And if I want to know anything about that product, I've got the chatbot integrated. If I want to find similar products, I can search by similarity. So this is just a awesome shopping tool, and it's only going to get better. All right, that's all I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you found it interesting, insightful. I hope you're excited about this, and we'll be talking to you again on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.